Hey folks, it's me again. This time we're going to have a cool, fun little video of all the things, well, not all, but the things that you shouldn't do when you're working on your fish project. Because I think you're going to probably run into some weird stuff that, number one, I want to show you how to either avoid or how to get out of if you do find yourself in these places. So I'm just kind of back where I was with that thing I was showing in the trim and clip and slice videos and the selection videos. Remember when you hold down shift and control and you can hide things or make them reappear, that kind of stuff, and delete stuff that's hidden. So if you haven't watched that yet, it might be a little confusing. But okay, for starters, the first thing I want to emphasize is don't get your model too dense too quickly. Okay, so right now this thing is pretty low res. It's 85,000 points. That's a great number to be at when you're doing the blocking in sort of modeling, which is all I've really done on this since I started it. So this all happened. This is probably maybe, I don't know, an hour's worth of work, if that. Okay, and that's why you want to keep that stuff low so you can work quickly. You can undo big things. So the idea is that you really want to just kind of keep yourself at a place where you don't get too dense too quickly. And what you're probably going to end up doing, and this is not a big deal because everyone does it, but I just want you to be aware of it, is at some point you're going to go, okay, I think I'm done with the blocking in, and I want to start getting some detail in here. I want to just really make this, for instance, I want to work on this eye because I really want the eye to be cool or to be able to see a little bit better so I know where the fish is and stuff. And I think I showed you this about changing the alpha on the clay buildup so it's not so hard edged. And you're kind of going, okay, so I'm doing that and I want to make it, I want to get it a little bigger out here, but it's so coarse and so gross that it just looks terrible. So I need to create more resolution, right? Because that's how I'm going to get this detail finer. So I've got 85,000 points. So if I go in here, I'm going to turn Dynamesh off because when you're dividing, you're only going to really see it if you turn that off. And that's Control D is to divide. So remember, every time you divide it, it multiplies this times 4. Okay, so it was at 84 or something, now it's at 34. If I do it again, it's going to be at 1,000,000 okay? And I go, okay, that looks great now. Now I can do this, and yeah. See, now it looks really nice because it's really fine there, and I can see things, and I can kind of play around with that a little bit more. Ooh, I can put more lips on this, and that's all true, okay? But make sure that when you actually do want to go to that point, you're really done with the other stuff, okay? Because see, even just trying to put an edge on this lip, because there's so much more detail now, so much more geometry in there, it's quite a bit more difficult to get big things to happen, okay? And you'll see now, even though I just wanted to make that thicker, it's getting all kinds of other stuff in there and other detail, and I've got to smooth it out and mess around with that. And if you're actually not done with the rest of this and you're trying to like pull parts of this around, for instance, like you would normally do when you're building things up, you're going to find that it's going to make this just feel lumpier, okay? And when something's lumpier, it doesn't look good, okay? It really looks wrong because most of the transitions you're going to see in like a fish muscle or our own muscles, unless you are some, crazy triathlete, your body is not sculpted like that with hard edges, okay? But when you over-divide too soon, that's what you're going to start getting. You're going to get these edges that are just going to look weird. And it's really going to make your model, honestly, it's going to look like a big bag of mashed potatoes or something, and not in a good way. So you really want to just avoid the temptation to beef things up. Okay, it's just not something you want to do until you really know that you're ready to do that. okay? And believe me, when you think you're ready, you're probably not. You probably have more stuff to do with more just low what's called low frequency or high frequency or low frequency and middle frequency sculpting, okay? So even like moving things, let's go back to my build up here. Like if I needed to pull out this gill here, you know, it would be just much more difficult to do that like this, okay? It's just, everything becomes too hard edged. It's actually much easier to do when you have a low res model. Okay, now remember, if you're not using Dynamesh, you can turn down the resolution. See, I'm at 3 here. I can go back down to 1, okay, and start to, you know, build that stuff up. But that means that I'm kind of out of Dynamesh possibilities, because with Dynamesh, you can't really have these extra subdivisions going on in your model, okay? And I really think Dynamesh is the way for most of you to go with this. So I'm just going to undo back here. And it's really just a warning to, you know, save as, so that when you are, you know, doing stuff, you can always go back and revert to an earlier version if you screw something up. Okay, so let's just save a bunch of different versions of this. One other thing that I've told you guys before, but I want to make sure you remember, turn this button off. Undo history when you save. Otherwise, your models are going to get enormous, or your files are going to get really big, and they're also going to get slow to load. Okay, they're going to take like 5-10 minutes sometimes to load, because it's got to go through and load every one of those undos and go through. And honestly, at this stage, rather than trying to undo something 100 times, it's almost easier to just start over. Okay, and don't feel bad if you start your fish or your fish creature thing many times. It's really how you learn. Okay, now this just started with a sphere that I just started pulling, and then I got to a point where it was just tearing, and I Dynameshed it, and you know, everything went happy fine. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Keep your stuff low res until you absolutely have to get higher res. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Dynamesh here, turn this back on, like so. Okay, and we've got that, and I can then control drag, and it will remesh that geometry. Okay, this is the one I clipped off, remember? Okay, so something else that's going to happen, and this is unique to Dynamesh, is your model might end up being turned into kind of Swiss cheese. Okay, it might get holes in it after you Dynamesh, and what that's caused by is when you are trying to make something really thin. Okay, so for instance, if I want to thin this out, and I hold down Option here, and I'm kind of going on both sides of this, and I want to make this super thin here. Okay, I think, oh, okay, that's going to be really nice and thin, like a fin, right? I'm going to do that. I'm just going to push this other side too, like that. And then if I Dynamesh this, control drag, I end up with this stuff. Okay, and this stuff is not good. Okay, this is not going to go away if you keep Dynameshing it. It will not go away if you go to a higher resolution. Okay, it's just going to hang around. There are ways to get rid of it, and that usually involves using the inflate brush and the pinch brush. Okay, so this is pinch, and you can pinch things together like that, and then you can inflate them. Where are you, little inflate? I should be using my quick keys here, but I've got a pen in my hand, so it's harder to do that. H, what's after H? I. It's got to be here somewhere. Where are you, inflate? Oh goodness, I'm going to have to do that. B-I-N. There it is. Yeah, see, I should be using my keys. Anyway, inflate just kind of blows things up like this, which is useful if you have like these skinny little things like this. You can make them bigger, you know. Now see if I Dynamesh that again, the holes go away, but it still looks gross and it doesn't look thin anymore. Okay, so you want to just be aware that if you're trying to make something thin, there are usually other ways to do it. Okay, I'm just smoothing this now down here like that. Okay, and I'll just undo back here so we can go kind of get back here. Okay, so one way to do it, let's say in something like this, or let's try it. Let's do a fin. Yeah, let's do that because that makes more sense with your fish. Okay. So let's say, see this guy up here? This is really thick. This dorsal fin here, I think that's what that's called. Like so. Okay. So how would I go about thinning that out without having that problem happen? Well, what I would do, this is how I would approach it. I'd mask it. Okay, so I'd start just holding down Control, mask the area that I want to have affected here, like this, say. Okay, and remember, if you hold down Option and Control, you can erase parts of the mask. So, like so. All right. I'll just fill that in a bit more. Okay, and then yeah, zoom in like that. That looks okay. Okay, and then if I Control and just click outside, it's going to invert that mask. Okay, like so. So one way you could do this is, of course, with the Move brush. Okay, start moving things from one side to the other with this inflated light or set up like this. But there's a quicker way, and that is to use the deformation palette here. Okay, and take a look at scale, or is it size? It's size. Okay, size, same thing as scale. It does it in all 3 dimensions by default. I really just want it to go in X, I think. I see this red line, that's X. Okay, this has nothing to do with it. Okay, so watch this, and while I use this, I'll just drag it to the left, and you'll see what that does. Nothing that is masked is going to be affected, but this is making that nice and skinny. Okay, pretty slick, huh? I know you're all going, yeah, okay, I have to do this. Normally I'd yell out in the class and say, yeah, right? So you guys can all see it. Okay, now it does kind of create a little funkiness there, but if I clear my mask, all I need to do is go to a brush that I can use to smooth. Hold down the Shift key and just smooth that. Ooh, and look at that. Oh, baby. Nice. Okay. You kind of see, and this again is at the real low res. Okay. And then you can go in with something like the rake brush, which is kind of like a tool you might use if you're actually sculpting in the real world, and start dragging, these things out to make them thinner. Now this is an area where you probably would need more resolution to make that happen. If you don't want to do it all once, though, you can certainly just use the clay buildup. I'll just Dynamesh this and just, start with a tiny brush here and just start, pulling out, shapes here to make that what I want. And this, obviously, would work. So really tiny here, that kind of thing. Okay, so I'd start peeling that away. And I should have been holding the Option key down. And I should have been closer and all sorts of things. Okay, like that. But if you do that, you can start to get, the kind of things that you might want. Okay, and again, don't try and do this until everything needs to get more resolution. Okay, so just leave that alone, as tempting as it is to start doing minor details like that when you're working. It's much better to just be patient. Get to it when the time is right. Okay, and that is really the key to all of this stuff. Okay, so again, if I were to, Swiss cheese something, the other thing to do is if I had this thing Swiss cheesed here, a quick way to deal with that would be just to go to my trim curve or trim lasso and just start to grab the area that I want to get rid of here, like that. And that'll just zap it. And then you can just pull this out again, Dynamesh it, and clean it up more. Okay? Or you can make this thinner to start with, and then when you pull it out, you can get that. Or pull it out with a mask. Remember how we did that at some point as well. Okay, so that's really the big things to watch out for. Okay? And I will at some point get to actually working on this thing a little bit more. This is just my kind of demo thing because I just wanted to have something to work with to show you guys. This is no great shakes or anything, but it does kind of show the idea of what I'm going to be looking at when I'm grading things, which is block out big forms, okay, like that, and don't make the thing like this fin up here, super skinny and with no body to it. These fish or things under the water, they have muscles, they have hearts, they have gills, they have bones, they have other things. So all those things are part of what make them what they are. Okay. Now obviously this thing has all these weird appendages on it, so it's not terribly real in that sense, but at least it has the semblance of something that could exist. Okay. And I haven't even gotten to the teeth yet. Okay. That's my favorite part. Okay, anyway, that's just kind of some things to watch when you're working on this stuff. The Swiss cheese thing is a biggie, and then the blocking in, and don't get to a high res too quickly. Okay, those are the biggies. All right, if you can hang into with that stuff, you're going to have a lot of success. I guarantee you, because most people jump right into that detail stuff right away, and then their models end up being a big bag of potatoes. Okay, not even mashed, just regular potatoes. Okay, so there you go. Good luck. Remember to ask me questions if you have problems. Okay.